That made me, I think, a little bit judgmental. Movable phalanges, but it's nut-based. There was no ear action or nose action, but there was belly button action. Hello guys, how are you guys doing? I know I missed last week. I apologize. I was on vacation and I had COVID as well. So did David, unfortunately. So, you know, not the best vacation, but we made the best of it that we could. Anywho, I honestly didn't know what I was gonna do this week because I've been in such a book slump, and I know I did that video that gives you like all those ideas of what to do on your book slump, but I was also just feeling like pressured and stressed and all that jazz. And then I just realized that I need to do a wrap up for last month. I originally wasn't gonna do it because I read one singular book. I basically read War by Thalassa, and then the two weird ass romance books that we actually read, April and I mean, we read it with Dave, my husband. So again, highly recommend you actually go check that one out. That was quite funny. But I read one book. I will say, if I'm giving you an update on my book slump, I finally felt yesterday, I literally had the urge to read, which was nice and relieving. And that's weird how that works. Like, you feel stressed at the fact that you're not reading and not doing the things that you really enjoy doing. And then all of a sudden, just poof, you feel like reading again. So I started reading the second book in the Bleed to Crystal Bloom series. And so far it's been really good. So hopefully we keep on that trend. But getting to the wrap up here, because I'm just a jibber jabber over here. I read War. I'm completely going to spoil it because I kind of hated it by the end. I was so let down, so I just need to talk about it, okay? If you haven't read it, if you read Pestilence, then you know that, and you saw my video, I guess, on it when I talk about it. I loved that. I was obsessed with it. I gave it 6 stars. I thought Laura Thalassa was fantastic in it. She did so many great things. Specifically, the thing that I highlighted that I still stand behind is the fact that she wrote an otherworldly character and made them feel as such. I really loved that he had this complete lack of humanity in him, and you watch him grow and start to gain that. And so he's losing who he was to become more human. I enjoyed that so freaking much. I honestly feel like Pestilence is a romance book. Like, there's so much depth to it that I don't know if I would say it would cross as genres, but you know how so many people like to tell us that romance isn't literature? I hate that saying. I feel like Pestilence does some incredible stuff in that book. Just the topics that kind of come up within it, the intimacy that's within it, the gaining your humanity, your purpose, all these different things, morals. I thought it was a fantastic book. So, but we're not talking about that one right now. We're talking about War, which I was so excited for, and I had this expectation that it was going to kind of be along the same lines. Now, caveat, if you haven't heard me talk about this before, Laura Thalassa, she also wrote Rhapsodic, and I hated it. But it wasn't because it was poorly written. I DNF'd it, to be honest, so don't know if I gave it much of a chance. But I just didn't like its setup where there was basically flashbacks every other chapter. But in Pestilence, that made me realize that she's talented. So in War, I was kind of expecting the same thing. I knew she would have to do something different because you can't have 4 Horseman books that all feel the same. Totally get that. But War really lost the quality that she had in Pestilence, in the sense that the otherworldly character, the angel, the demon, whatever you want to call him, the horseman, he doesn't feel otherworldly. He feels very, very human. And you can argue, because he's already been with his army for a year and his army is made up of those humans, that you could say that's where he kind of gained his humanity. But there's certain phrasing that he uses, and he's very loose when it comes to sexual stuff. There's certain phrases that he's using and certain things that he is doing that just really, I don't know. I don't feel like him being around those other humans for a year is really supporting that behavior, if that makes sense. He felt like he was written very much human. And he's kind of more, compared to Pestilence. Pestilence is the one who, like, he does some pretty dark, terrible stuff to Burns. Where War, he's much more adoring. He does kind of punish her in ways, and he's not always giving her everything that she wants. If you hear Max, I'm sorry, he's chewing on his toy and he's the good boy, so I'm not gonna tell him to stop. But anyways, he does stuff that kind of punishes her and also hurts her in ways, but not physical. He very much is into her well-being, and he wants her to be happy, but he also expects her to sacrifice a lot of stuff in order to understand who he is as an entity and what he has to do. But it really lost that otherworldly quality to me that I think apparently had even more of an effect on me than I even realized. But that made me, I think, a little bit judgmental. But then that extended out. And this is where I got pretty upset. Even in the beginning, I honestly was entertained like the first 50% of the book. But then after that, it really started to tank for me. And it also was way too long. Stuff was being repeated over and over and over. There was a lot that needed to be taken out. But the thing in the beginning that really bugged me is we're in a completely different area of the world in war. We're basically in Palestine and Israel, essentially. You're basically moving through this different region, and we eventually even go into Egypt. So they're very much over in the Middle Eastern sector of the world, which is distinctly different than America. And you can argue that, you know, everyone's going to have their own personality. Sure, yes. But every single person that talked in that book, whom were all Middle Eastern, they all just felt very distinctly American and very much like city American, if that makes sense. You wouldn't really get the idea that anybody's like religious, especially just like the friends that I have who are Muslim or Jewish, they wouldn't even talk like that. And it's not that I'm trying to like judge. It's hard to say. I don't have the book in front of me because I sent it out for the traveling book. I wish I could give you the phrase, but it's not that I'm saying that people can't have their own personalities and that there can be people in the Middle East who act like Americans. That's not what I mean. But everybody that I know would not be as loose-lipped, especially when it comes to sexual acts, as what was presented in that book. Like, everybody looked Middle Eastern, but culturally, it was completely absent. And it really, really bugged me because it kind of just made them all feel like they're American and like a city like Los Angeles American, if that makes sense. So that really bugged the heck out of me. And it's so funny because I recently just watched Joanna's video, XO Jo, that's her channel name. I just watched her video and she was talking about kind of like false BIPOC representation. And it's a really good video. You guys should go watch it. I will try to link it down below. But it was one of those things where when I was watching her video, this kept flashing in my mind because there, like, any sort of cultural significance, I didn't feel like was present at all. And it was distracting. It was very distracting. I know I'm in another country. I know I'm in the Middle East. I know I'm in a very religious area at that compared to Pestilence, where we're just in Seattle and there's not as much prevalence on religion. You meet a couple Christian characters, but even their sort of religion, I feel like in the first book was much more present, where this one, it was just so absent that it was distracting, and that the way their dialogue was kind of finessed, that was missing. That sort of representation wasn't there. But yeah, that's basically me probably repeating over and over the same exact thing so you guys can get it. I just was very frustrated that I felt like I was just, I don't know, in Los Angeles and not over in the Middle East. It just didn't feel right. But then even beyond that, getting out of all of that stuff, I was really frustrated with the chick. I honestly was so angry with her, like Burns and Pestilence. I feel like I understood her and she didn't just like give up and just be like, oh, he's hot, so everything's okay now, it's fine. Where in this one, in war, I really feel like our chick, it doesn't feel like she stands for anything. She'll mention things, but then go kiss him or go have sex with him or whatever it might be. Like, you think she's finally coming to a point, like, that she's understanding, like, he's going to unalive everybody. And eventually that means he's going to have to unalive her. He's going to take out children. He's taking out innocent people. And it's not like he's being gentle about it. He's brutal. He's war. You think she's coming to this understanding, finally. But then, literally, that evening, she'll go fuck him. So by the end of it, I was so pissed. By the time they ended up starting to have sex, and then just like, I found her to be utterly unintelligent. Like, the fact that she gives over, like, okay, I'll finally be intimate with you. I'll have sex with you if you give me the birds, if you allow them to fly off. And he basically says, sure, but I'm not going to tell my men that they can't kill them. So the one thing you know that he really wants, you're going to give all of it. You're literally going to go from 0 to 60 for that. But it irked me. It really irked me that she wasn't more intelligent. It irked me that it felt like she didn't stand for anything, because as soon as she saw him, happened so much more than Burns. She was just utterly obsessive with how attractive that he was, and like how she's getting these feelings, and it's so nice, and she can't help it, almost like it's, a godlike powers coming over her, things like that. So I hated her by the end, absolutely hated her. I wish I had the passages for you guys. I know I'm just kind of blabbering without giving you true detail, and I'm sorry. I wish I had the passages in front of me. I should have done this when I still had the book. I'm such a dork. So my two big things with this was that I felt like the cultural representation was not there at all, and it was completely Americanized. That's probably a better way to say it. And then the fact that our chick literally, I'm not going to say she didn't care that it was the end of the world, because she'd have snippets where she cared, but apparently didn't care enough to actually like withhold herself from war. So I really disliked that. And it was too long. It was too long. So there you go. That whole like 12-minute discussion, I basically gave it to you in 30 seconds. Sorry, I'm a jib jabber. I can't help it. But anywho, moving on. Let's get past it. I didn't like it. I'm nervous for the third book. I'm really hoping that I'll enjoy it, but so far I don't know what to think of Laura Thalassa. I loved the first book, but the second book really made me be like, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't like it when, I don't know. I don't even know how to say it. I just didn't like it. I didn't like it. We'll just go with that. Anyways, let's get into the weird ass stuff. So, my memory is like going. That's another reason why I need to do these wrap ups just like right away, or maybe even just like after the book. That would probably be smarter. But April and I reread, I think it was like SPF Me, and then there was Alien Mannequin. And Dave joined us, my husband joined us, so that was fun. Again, I will leave the link down below so you guys can check it out if you guys would like, because we streamed it while we were actually reading, so that was funny. But talking about SPF Me, this was the better one. It wasn't Mantis level, but basically the whole concept of this is there's a chick who really loves sunscreen, all right? Like, she's obsessive. She needs that sun protection, baby. She wants the all organic, and she has like 5 or 6 something, maybe 4 to 6 different sunscreens in her bag, and her friend are at the pool, and they're getting hot and toasty, laying out, trying to get a tan or something, and her friend goes inside because she needs a little nap, and our girl stays outside. But then her sunscreens somehow come to life. I don't remember how that happened, but they came to life, and we have like the spritzer, we have the stick, we have the cream. I can't remember the other guy, but I know there was at least 4. And they basically come out, and they're normal freaking sunscreen bottle size. Okay, but they come out of their bag just like, hey, baby, let me go ahead and slather you up. Let me protect you. Oh, I also want to mention this because this was just a nice detail of it, but it's nut-based sunscreen. Okay, but anyways, they basically come out and they're just like, we want to lather you up. We're so into you. And she hasn't been with anybody in a while, and apparently sunscreens do it for her in more ways than one. But all the details of like where they're going, one of them at some point ended up just futzing around with her belly button, if you know what I mean. We also have the back door, we have the front door, and we have the mouth. There was no ear action or nose action, but there was belly button action. So one of them is just like in her mouth the entire time. I think it was the stick, Talk about lockjaw, okay? But he's basically there. There's one that's up at the breast, and it was the one like the spritzer cap, I believe it was, the spray one. And it talked about how like the cap would kind of like come up and he'd like latch onto her nipple. The entire time, honestly, I was just like, oh, ow, ooh, because that's like decapitating a nip, okay? Let's be honest with one another. That does not sound comfortable. And then there was like the aerosol spritzer, and it talked about how it was like spitting up onto her back door and stuff to get her ready. So if you can just picture that, because that's a lovely image. There was this crazy stuff. And then at one point, one of them goes inside the front door, another one goes in the back door, and they're basically just like, yeah, bro, this is so awesome. And they high five inside of her body. And then like there's just the skin wall between their hands. And then when she blows, one ends up getting like literally, or both of them, one gets ricocheted out of her front door, and the other one just like freaking shoots out of her mouth over into the pool, and then one gets stuck in the back door, and they have to yank on his legs to get him out, but he's ready just to like go out, right? That's the ultimate way for him to die. So he's having a blast, but it was weird. It was a weird one, I'm not gonna lie. And they didn't describe them as having any sort of like human features. They very much were just sunscreen. So, I don't know. April said she pictured him with like googly eyes. And that killed me. But yeah, that literally was a story. It was pure smut. Pure sunscreen smut. We read it for summertime. It wasn't bad. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars. I don't know if I gave it 4. Somewhere in there. Like I said, it's not Mantis level. But it was fun. The next one though, Alien Mannequin. This is like disappointing. This one's not as bad as the Hornado one, but it's close. Dave's somewhere over there back there. But anyways, this one, basically the whole concept was that we have a girl who works inside of a mall because she has a sexual obsession with mannequins, and the mall has closed, and she's finally getting her alone time, and she basically goes over to this mannequin, and he starts moving because he has been taken over by aliens, and they really need the human race in order to like keep their population going, of course. But the humans are like the government, they suck and they aren't willing to work with them, okay? So he's basically taken over a mannequin and has now told her, I need to impregnate you and I need you, okay? But the problem with this could be promising, all right? This really could be promising. There was this whole explanation of what actually happens when he's in his alien form, of how he basically like explodes inside of her, and then all of his like guts and blood and everything would be the nutrition that the baby would need in order for her to grow it inside of her belly. All right? Interesting, cool. It talked also about like all these little pincers like latching on to the vaginal walls. It was disturbing in like a great way. But then it just went completely downhill because we have a mannequin, okay? So just like, you know, creepy stuff. And like, as April put it, she literally did that to the camera. I don't know if it was as creepy because it was at nighttime when we did it, but when April did that, I was like, oh my Lord, this is disturbing. But he's supposed to be like a mannequin. He should move kind of like robotically. His limbs should be tight, you know? They basically just came to life. So it was basically like he was a human. It was honestly just corn with a P, you guys. With like a really lackluster storyline. And it was too easy. Like making her already sexually excited by mannequins. She should have been terrified and he should have tried to like convince her. It was terrible. Like April mentioned in the video, there's a part where he's gonna, you know, go down on her, have a little snacky poo. Probably shouldn't have said that. Have a little snack. And we're hoping that's gonna be like a mannequin phase where he's just like bumping his face or something, just like trying to rub it. No, everything comes like his fingers, like his hands, his mannequin hands become these guys. Nice, movable phalanges. His mouth moves, all of that stuff. So it was kind of lame. I'm not gonna lie, it was disappointing. I think by the end of it, or honestly probably even partway through it, all of us were just like, can we be over with this already? You know? So it was not a great month for me. Okay, the SPF book, I guess, was the best because those are the only 3 things that I read. war, so disappointing, but it is what it is. Hopefully this month will be better. Hopefully I'll actually be reading, because I have not been wanting to read. It's just been one of those things. Steph and I were talking. It's like a book slump, but it's also just life slump too, which is stuff that's going on. You know, everybody has this. Lots of things going on. Your mental state, like in the sense of like things are happening and you know you need to do things, but you don't want to do things because they're tough. So it's making you not want to do anything, which apparently is turning into books. So hopefully that's all done now that I want to read, but we'll see. The lighting in here is terrible. It makes me look like I have no eyebrows and like I'm balding. But you don't really need to know that. I don't know why I'm still chit-chatting. This is just, I'm having a tough time. Anyways, sorry about that, guys. I will catch you next week for sure. I hopefully am done with COVID and being sick and all of that jazz, so I should be up to date. Also, it's getting close to August, which I'm just going to give like a little hint. My readathon is coming. So an announcement will be happening sometime in August. So I'm excited about that. There's probably another reason why I'm stressed, because it's all the little details and it's just nerve-wracking. I don't know. I'm going to stop jib-jabbing. Anywho, bye.